great humility and appreciation, and with a great sense that they belong to my ancestors, especially the women in my family.
First name's Donnie, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul, baby. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. All right, so we brought you a litany of guests on this show. And as you know, one of my favorite topics is business, is entrepreneurship. Jackie Cummings hosted the Black Wall Street Expo a few weeks ago. And one of the entrepreneurs I had the pleasure of meeting was Dapper Luke, and he's joining us on the show today. This cat is the epitome of fashion, not just American, I would say globally. So you want to get an education, get your notebook, get a pen, and meet Dapper Luke. Good
How
morning,
you doing,
sir.
sir?
How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me. I appreciate that intro.
Yes, sir. Where are you from, Dapper?
Originally from Baltimore, East Baltimore.
East Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
My first memories of East Baltimore. I think I might be a little bit. Am I younger or older than you?
Well, I don't. It depends on you. Want me to keep it real, or we just, I don't know if it's a keeping it real show. But I believe you're a little bit older than me.
Yeah, I was born in '65. I remember the '68 riots when Dr. King was assassinated. East Baltimore was off the rails, man, but also a Dunbar poet. So
okay, you're a Dunbar poet?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I am as well. Class of '98.
Yeah, I was class of '83. Came out the year that they won the national championship, or one of the years that they won the national championship.
Muggsy was there.
Yes, sir. Did you play?
I did not. I was in the martial arts, so I was working in the martial arts at that time.
Martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going back to the days of you know anything about Riley Hawkins and the Avengers?
I do not. No, sir.
You see, who was in East Baltimore chopping up people? It was a bunch of people over there.
I was
up some boxing gym.
Yeah, I was up off of Harford Road, Goes Kung Fu, right there off of Harford Road and Northern Parkway.
Okay. Yeah. And then you, at some point, you went to the military?
Yes, sir. Right when I graduated high school, joined the Navy, left when I was 17, turned 18 in boot camp. So.
How was that experience?
It was really well. I mean, prior to that, leaving out of Baltimore was pretty much going to King's Dominion or going to DC. So definitely gave me a world view, saw a lot of the world, Europe, Africa, different parts of the United States. So definitely opened up my eyes as to, what else is out there and what's in the realm of possibility. And it kind of definitely gave me the confidence to start my entrepreneurial journey. So I definitely appreciate it for that.
I got to tell you, Luke, one of the oldest Black businesses in America comes straight out of East Baltimore.
Okay.
It's called Locke's Funeral Home.
Okay.
Joseph Locke's family opened it back around 1835.
Wow. Okay.
As a matter of fact,
a funeral home down here in Virginia where I'm at, the Graves Funeral Home. And they are also Black owned and 3 generations deep within that business. So, and that's the funeral business. So absolutely.
I actually grew up in the funeral business.
Okay.
So my first memories in East Baltimore were actually at my dad's funeral home at Patterson Park in Landville.
Okay. Very nice. Very nice.
First place I had to put them dukes up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I learned how to swim
Cats
over.
was-
I learned how to swim over in Patterson Park when they had the pool over there. I learned how to swim over there.
Well, I don't know if I learned how to swim. I learned how to not drown as Cecil Kirk. I didn't realize I was the Undertaker's kid riding in the Cadillac every day. And some people were a little bit envious of that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's a lot of that around there. Absolutely.
Tried to hem my long jeans. But let me tell you something else about East Baltimore. At the bottom of Caroline Street, there's a museum named the Frederick Douglass Isaac Myers Maritime Park and Museum. Isaac Myers started the National Black Labor Union movement straight out of East Baltimore. He had what was called the Ship Caulkers Union. That black people caulking ships, you know, making sure you seal them up with the water on the street. He was the first president, but Frederick Douglass is who succeeded him as president.
Very nice. Very nice.
Now, I love Virginia. My mama from Virginia, but also I think that's down there where Nat Turner was. So I'm a big history buff, in case you don't know. But Nat Turner is one of my all-time heroes. I am Black Wall Street. So how'd you get into the business? Tell us about the business.
So for me, 2014, as I was about, just over halfway through my naval career, I kind of decided, there's going to be an end to this military thing at some point. So kind of what's the next steps? So for me, I was reading a book by Robert Greene called Mastery, Robert Greene, 48 Laws of Power. And he pretty much asked you a question, if money was not an option, what would you be doing? So I've kind of always had a love for fashion. Even when I was over at, Dunbar, I was considered the preppy kid. I was dressing Gant, wasn't really wearing, jeans like everybody else. I was wearing khakis and polo shirts, So I've kind of always had a love for fashion. So I kind of wanted to figure out how can I get in industry and, make $1. So as I was, exploring, Dapper Luke was originally a blogger. And then from there, I went into styling. I was a model for a little period of time. And then I worked for a designer out of New York City, Clavin Leonard. And he kind of put me into the actual design realm. Became a designer, launched my very first collection in March of 2020. And then, of course, we had the pandemic. So that's kind of how I got into custom suiting once I had those connections. And we opened our first location here in Virginia, March of 2020. And I opened my second location in Baltimore, August of 2022. And I've been kind of rocking ever since.
How important is it for a young Black man at age 18 to leave Baltimore?
I think it is. I'm not going to say it's necessary, but I think it definitely gives you a leg up, right? And the reason why I say that is a lot of times, we have a view, East Baltimore, West Baltimore, South Baltimore, right? You kind of get stuck in those areas, right? And that is the extension of your literal view, right? So in order to kind of open up your eyes and see there's more out there than simply East, West, South Baltimore, you definitely have to go somewhere that's going to put you in places that you would not normally. And then also just the structure of the military, I definitely appreciated that. And the idea of, what a mentor, because I think I'm definitely big on mentorship. And I feel like mentorship is really good for any young man, growing up. Even if you have, a father in the household, having a mentor within an industry that interests you definitely helps you out.
I'm going to tell you, Dapper, leaving Baltimore at 18, I went to Atlanta for 2 years.
Okay.
The Morehouse, and it saved my life.
Okay, I can understand that.
Because around 83, the crack epidemic was taking off. When I came back on break, Thanksgiving, summer, I saw people who I grew up with sticking each other up. Dude, he lived right there. He lived right around the corner. We grew up together.
And it's a young man.
18.
Wow.
My friend David Miller says life is bigger than a trip to Mondom and a jumbo half and half. Something to that effect. I forgot. I haven't said it. But he essentially what you said, that we get stuck in our neighborhoods. You got people who never leave a 6-block radius.
And that's your worldview. Absolutely. I know quite a few guys like that. I grew up East Baltimore. When I turned 15, I moved to South Baltimore to Westport. And yeah, it's guys who their whole life was defending and walking the streets of Westport. And I'm like, what you gotta get outside of this box, outside of this area. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, unfortunately, a lot of guys did not. You know, that was where they grew up. And unfortunately, that's where they passed away at a very young age.
I lived up the hill around Carver High School, Bacon, Bentlow when we moved west. And we know about the number 51. We also know if you don't know nobody in Cherry Hill, you don't take yourself down there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like a southern town, one way in, one way out.
You're absolutely right about that. Yep.
I don't care how pretty she is. If you ain't got an escape plan from Sawgrave, don't even go.
Yeah, you better have some.
Because you have problems, especially if you're waiting on that 51.
Yeah, you better have some family in that area. It's not worth it. Yeah, I definitely know that.
That's a long run. So when I had the chance to go to actually Ethiopia,
okay,
I learned that the leather used for coach bags comes from them little goats I saw in Ethiopia. The same bags that we paid $1,500 for over here, you could have bought that goat for $12. Now, I'm not saying the process isn't, there's an artistry and craftsmanship that it takes to get the leather through the process. But I'm saying what we paying all of this money for, the actual cost is much smaller. And then also, by the time we get it in the US, it could be 2 years later. In terms of the style.
Yeah.
Like they had been wearing that already for 2 years in Italy. Help me out with that. What's your perspective?
So for me, I absolutely, agree. So if you just recently saw, I believe it was Louis Vuitton was called out for the cost of their bags being around like, $100, and they're selling them for $2,400, right? So, unfortunately here in the United States and some other places, we get really caught up on these labels, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, and nothing against those brands. In the world of business, right? If you can demand a price and somebody pays it, that's the epitome of capitalism, right? But for me, one of the reasons why I love the suit industry, right? Labels don't matter, right? No one's going to sit there and ask me what type of suit do I have on. They just want to say, does it fit me properly? Does it look good? So that's kind of why I went towards fashion. Me and both my wife, we are definitely not label consumers. I don't go after particular labels and brands. I go after what fits and what looks good. And when you're in the world of fashion and style, again, you want to be as unique as possible and not really depend on labels. So that's kind of how I feel about the big label brands. Those that chase it, I think you need to have a more of a respect for yourself. Like, don't get so caught up on these labels and trying to show people that you've done it. Just be comfortable with whatever it is that you have and what you're able to wear and possess.
Do you sew at all?
I can sew. I don't sew. As they say in my industry, do what you do best, outsource the rest. So I'm more of a master clothier. I'll fit you, get you the right fabric, get you the right style, design. And then my items are made in India, China, and Pakistan. And then I have a couple tailors here locally in Virginia and in Baltimore I use for alterations.
My mom, in addition to being a nurse, she was also a seamstress.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I remember my dad telling me how she used to sew labels into clothes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Exactly the point you were making. And then there's a cat who he was actually in the Navy who has actually mentored me on what to wear, what not to wear. In other words, here, boy, this try this.
Mm-hmm.
And he said the same thing. Forget the label. Actually, it was a dude at Gage's. You remember Gage's men's store?
Mm-hmm.
Larry used to say that you can put the label in anything.
Correct.
But does it fit you and fit you properly? So with a men's jacket, especially as I'm getting older, getting a little bit of a breadbasket there.
Mm-hmm.
I was at a men's store, and I asked him, did the jacket fit? I need a 42 or 44.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he pulled it out, and he said, "Can you see the floor?" Now, what the heck was he looking for? Was it too much space? Not enough space? He wouldn't give me the trade secret. Help me out, Dapper.
Okay, so that number that you just told me, 4244, do you know what that number represents or what that number is telling you?
Well, please, by all means. I would figure it has to do with the girth inside of the jacket, because as I get older, gotten a little chunkier. Ain't hitting them sit-ups over at Dunbar no more.
Yeah,
but I wore 32. Hey, look, I wore 32 waist for years.
Mm-hmm.
But we starting to creep up there past the 34 mark.
So the industry of suits, right, is based off of numbers, right? That 42, 44, 46, 48, that is your chest size, right? That number that you're reading is your chest size, right? And then you normally see a L, an R, or an S, right? So 42S, 42R, 42L. That is your sleeve length, right? So it's a 42 chest. It's a small arm, a regular arm, or a long arm, right? And then if you buy a full suit, you're normally going to get a 6-inch drop for your trousers. So if you buy a 42 blazer, it's going to have a 36 waist pants come with it. So normally you have to sell it as a complete set, 42 chest, 36 waist. So then if your stomach, because it doesn't account for your stomach, it's very uniform in how they cut these. So that's another reason why I'm in the industry that I'm in, because my suits are not industry suits. Each one of them is custom made for every client. So when you're dealing with, men, not all of us have the same body type. Some of us got bellies. Some of us got bigger waists. Some of us got hips. So if you're trying to go buy a suit off the rack, normally they're going to get you a bigger suit and they're going to try to cut it down to fit you through tailoring. But within the custom world, we're going to take all of your custom measurements and make the suit directly for you. So any of my guys that, a little bit, more, they have the trouble with the push-ups away from the table, you know what I'm saying? Then you want to come custom. If you're a taller guy, you definitely want to come custom, because it's really hard to find industry sizing that fits you properly.
So do shoes fall into your bailiwick? Are shoes something you find yourself recommending, not recommending, selling, not selling?
So I don't sell a lot of shoes, but within the industry, a lot of my people that I work with are my clients, right? So I don't just have customers, I have clients, right? And they come to me for that level of expertise and knowledge. So I'll have my clients, after they buy something from me, they'll go to a shoe store and send me pictures like, hey, what do you think about this, Dap? Or what kind of shoe would I go with? So I give a lot of recommendations. I do have some shoes in my showroom I have right here, and a couple in the one I have over there. As I begin to expand, I want to begin offering more. I have the ability to do custom shoes, but a lot of my clientele has not really come to me for custom shoes. The majority of them that want custom shoes are like for weddings. Some of my wedding clients will want to buy all of their groomsmen a custom shoe that everyone is wearing. But everyday clients, the majority of my clients are weddings. That's my number one client. Next is going to be like proms and weddings, excuse me, proms. And then my final was like business professionals. So your lawyers, your doctors, your real estate folks, those are kind of round out my client base. And for me, a lot of them, even just guys in general, we're not really particular when it comes to shoes. Women, they got to have, 25 pairs of shoes, different heel heights, different heel widths. Guys just want something quick and comfortable.
Depending on the guy. Now, I was told I was raised by a funeral director. So one,
okay. Yeah. So yes, different level of shoe game.
yeah. First of all, they got to be shine. I was 30-some years old, and Pops was giving me a ride somewhere, and he said, "Go back in there and shine your shoes." And I wanted to say, I'm a grown man. But you didn't say that to him.
Yeah.
I just went back in there and shined.
Some battles ain't worth fighting.
Yeah, just went back in there and shined the shoes. Had a shoe shine box. As a matter of fact, when I see an elected official with dusty shoes, it kind of puts a frown on my spirit.
Yeah. It's funny
because
you say that, the mayor of Baltimore, love a guy. I've never personally met him, but I follow him because he's the mayor of Baltimore. When I see some of the suits I see him with, I'm like, man, somebody hook me up with this guy so I can get him a proper fitting suit.
I can do that.
Well, let's do that. And it's funny because one of my good friends who's also in the custom suit world, he has done a suit for the mayor. But yeah, I definitely can get him right. And even some of these politicians, unfortunately, and I think this was partly the pandemic when we kind of were working from home and those other things, we got really, really relaxed in how we dress. So a lot of guys, they don't even wear suits. Like real estate folks used to wear suits a lot. Now these guys walking around in polo shirts and khakis. They don't even really wear suits that much anymore. So,
Dapper, I'm getting ready to pose a question to you.
Okay.
About the shoe game.
Okay.
Now, I'm old school. I'm 59.
Okay.
Dapper, what do you think of the tennis shoes with the suit?
So me, I'm not a fan, right? I don't wear tennis shoes with suits, right? But the one thing that I understand, being an individual in the fashion world, you can't put your standards on everybody else, right? So I would not wear it, but it's a lot of my clients who they come in with a tennis shoe, especially my younger guys for proms, and they want to match this shoe up with some type of suit or tuxedo. So I style guys all the time that want to wear the shoes. I personally don't wear the tennis shoes with the suit. But
but they got these, they got the Cole Haan joints, the ones with the white bottoms.
Yeah.
And I remember someone was trying to talk me into it, and I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
I'm old school.
Correct.
Hard bottoms with taps on the heels, and the shoe is shine.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't back down from that fight that night.
Yeah, I mean, for you personally, if somebody trying to put you in a tennis shoe and a suit, if it ain't just you don't wear it. But for me personally, I can understand it, but I just don't do it. But I definitely understand it.
Okay, so how do you stay up on what the latest is in the fashion world? Is it magazines? Is it direct contact with the people in India, Pakistan, China? And then okay, how do you stay abreast of that?
So right now it's very easy because of social media, right? You follow, your GQs, your Esquires, you're going out to fashion shows, fashion weeks. And like you say, I'm in contact with my factories, on a almost daily basis. I'm sitting here on my phone right here. I'm getting a text from my guy in India right now about to ask me a question. So yes, you definitely just have to kind of see what's going on, what's trending, and what looks good. And like I said, I make recommendations. I can style. I do couple styling. So I definitely see what's going on. I understand it. But I also know what I like and what's comfortable for me. And I make sure I'm not trying to be, following the trends, but I understand the trends.
All right, so here's a question. You might laugh at this. I don't know. I've seen the way pants are made.
Okay.
Now, maybe I wasn't paying attention 30 years ago, but why does it seem, but I guess this is stuff from the store, there ain't no butt in the pants. So the pants that used to fit, yeah, they falling off your waist. Like, do they use Asian models? Because we black and we got a little more roundness and to us. And is that why so many cats sagging?
I don't think that's why they're sagging. I think they sagging because a lot of times the pants are too doggone small for them. But the one thing that I think we lost, right, somewhat within our community is our own sense of style, right? We're following behind these European trends, and the Asians and things like that, they make their clothing based on European trends, and we're following those. I remember back in the day, like you say, 30 years ago, we were wearing, in Nietzsche, we were wearing Fat Farm, we were wearing all these brands that were made, designed, and styled for us. Now we're chasing these European brands and labels that are not made for us, and we're simply chasing these brand names, not getting clothes that were, FUBU for us by us. We're not buying those brands; they're not available to us anymore, unfortunately. So, I think that we need to, kind of. I would say the 90s was almost like a renaissance for Black designers and Black fashion, and a lot of that has gone away now, unfortunately.
What I never understood, and maybe I'm just naive. Like, I can talk to you about fashion, but this little soft dude over here from Europe, I can't get how he gets to make the trend in fashion.
I don't know. Again, like, we have come to a point where
we don't get to see you enough.
Mm-hmm.
We don't get to see our African designers. I know they got African designers and African fashion shows, but we are so inundated with this little soft Liberace looking dude who's trying to, he wears some real tight pants and some shoes that look like a girl would wear.
Absolutely.
And to each their own, but that ain't where we from.
Absolutely not.
As a matter of fact, when I think about the Moors brought fashion to Europe. And it's like now the teacher is being taught. That's the part that just kind of leaves me discombobulated.
Well, it's not even, what's crazy, right? So I'm going to even take you on a different kind of mindset trip, right? So this idea of wealth, right? Wealth is a European mentality, right? The fact that, I own something, that something is worth something, that is a European mindset. If you go back to, prior to us coming over here to the United States, Africans, Asians, Native Americans, we took from the earth, took from the soil, and we gave back to it, right? The European came in and said, no, I own this. This is mine. This is worth this, and this. We had a sense of worth, but the European, the idea of trespassing, owning, worth, all those things are European mindset. So we allowed the European mindset be the world standard for whatever reason. And we've been, we African Americans, a lot of us, all of us have been chasing behind the Europeans' definition of wealth and not our own system of wealth, system of fashion. So until we kind of get back to that, we're no longer following, chasing, and getting the Europeans' approval. We have our own approval system. Then we're going to be in this perpetual chasing behind them syndrome. And until we get past that, that's what you're going to see.
You know anything about Black Wall Street, Dapper?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's funny you say that. So you just mentioned in the beginning of the broadcast, Miss Jackie, right? So, when I personally knew I was going to open up a store in Baltimore, I wanted to come inside one of her buildings because that area on Charles Street, 2050, they consider that, Black Wall Street in Baltimore. So I wanted my store could have been anywhere in Baltimore, anywhere in Maryland, but I wanted it to be right there in that area because I kind of want to continue that legacy and bring something different. No one else is doing what I'm doing in that area. You're not going to see a custom Clothier on anywhere in just the normal Black neighborhood, but I wanted to bring that to Baltimore. So absolutely, I definitely understand Black Wall Street and what it stands for and what it represents, and I wanted to be a part of that.
Well, Baltimore has always been a part of it. Now, the history, technically, there are 3 official Black Wall Streets. One in Tulsa, the one that got bombed from the air and burned to the ground.
They dropped the
There's
bomb
one
on
in
you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's Durham, North Carolina, made famous by North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance. And the 3rd official Black Wall Street is in Richmond.
Richmond, Virginia. Yep.
Maggie Walker. So if you're in Virginia, you got to get, I don't know if you got a picture, but you got to get a picture by that Maggie Walker statue in Richmond.
You know, it's funny. I don't have a picture directly next to that, but I have a picture in that area. I was actually I do a lot of kind of fashion photo shoots. So I know exactly where that area. It's off of Broad Street.
Jackson Ward. Jackson Ward.
Yep. I know it very well. Yep.
And so we used to be there, but like other East Coast cities, it's being gentrified. So what used to be all Black is now white. Your old neighborhood in East Baltimore
is gone.
Yeah.
My neighborhood was Cladway Freedom Way. That no longer exists. They tore down those projects and made single family homes, which I think is kind of necessary. It's necessary to kind of grow out of that. But this is another thing, kind of going off of, you know, what you just said, right? So one of the longest and the most profitable all Black bus systems was in North Carolina. But, you know, when the Blacks showed that they no longer needed the white bus system lowered their prices, right? And for whatever reason, again, we have this mindset of if it's white, it's right, right? Like we tend to veer away from our own. And so it's hard to kind of maintain and sustain if they're going to undercut you and they have more capital and more funding. So I think the reason why, you know, and this is actually what Malcolm X, if you listen to a lot of what Malcolm X was saying was, you know, we don't need to integrate. We need to have our own, right? Separate is not less than. Separate is not, you know, not as good. Because again, the term as good as depends on who's making the standard. And unfortunately, we have allowed them to create the standard and we're trying to keep up with them. Create our own standard. Don't worry about what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? And then just follow your own standard.
To our defense, Dapper, we're only 15% of the population.
Absolutely. I get it. Absolutely. And unfortunately, a lot of the systems, again, the systems, right? People don't understand the systems, right? In order to be a thriving community, you have to have access to capital. Ample capital, and they have more access to capital than we have. Like you said, we're only 15%. But again, so if you want to say that, right, again, it just depends on what you consider, right, quality, right? We can have quality, just not at the quote unquote level they're at, and that's okay. But we have to all have that mindset. You can't have a small group that are willing to accept, and the larger majority, even of us are small, are chasing after what they say. Right now, a lot of people are chasing after what they say.
I agree. But it is understandable. I mean, that's just like when I see my beautiful African sisters.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Supporting the Korean beauty shop.
Not even if they're supporting, right? We unfortunately within our own community are not comfortable in our own skin. We're not comfortable in our own natural look, right? We are chasing a European beauty standard, right? The long, wavy, straight hair, that is not us. And that is okay. But we have been just so brainwashed. If it ain't long, straight, curly, it ain't beautiful. That is incorrect. And you were speaking about Ethiopia. I've been to Ghana. I've been to Tanzania. I've been to South Africa. And, you know, unfortunately, even over there, they're beginning to chase that European beauty standard. I know you've seen some of the folks over there bleaching their skin. Like, bro, what are we doing?
I couldn't imagine. Man, summertime come. I can't wait to get more, son.
Yeah, man.
These cats are putting bleach. So you think we've been duped? We always crossed the Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
What about getting duped in your own homeland?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's your Tanzanite. You say you've been to Tanzania.
Mm-hmm.
They got this rock called Tanzanite,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
similar to diamonds. That's your cobalt in the ground. That's your, those are your natural resources in the ground. And this little dude from a little small, and you're not even a continent. It's really small. It's really Eurasia. It's one landmass. That's what a landmass is. But anyway, they are dominating, and it's up to us. I remember dating this young lady, and I'm gonna tell you when things went south. She said, "This is a white man's world," and I knew she wasn't the one for me. I just don't think that way.
Absolutely.
First of all, there are over 1.3, 1.5 billion Africans on the continent. They tell us we 15% here, but we seem more like 35%, especially given the influence across the board. Science, technology, law, medicine, education, any industry that we get in, we dominate. Hockey. Yeah, hockey. We were playing hockey in the 1800s.
No, African Americans started hockey. The very first hockey players were black in Canada. The very first hockey players were black.
You were in the Navy, the first seafarers were African. We're the first humans on the planet. Of course, we had the first ships. We're the first world travelers. But if all we get is our history from Hollywood,
correct.
Then,
that's
where the
the United States education system was implemented by Rockefeller. Rockefeller put in place our educational system. And of course, if you are the one writing the quote unquote history, giving the lessons out, you're not going to put yourself in a negative light. Even I'm sure when you were little, right? You used to play cowboys and Indians, right?
I always liked the Indians.
Huh?
I always liked the Indians.
But a lot of kids did not want to be the Indians because in history,
I always liked the Indians.
You were one of the few. Most kids wanted to be the cowboy, right? Because the cowboys was taking over the Indians, right? And unfortunately, if you really truly look at history, if you truly understand it, that was not a fair fight. That was a slaughter, right? There's no fighting cowboys and Indians. That was a slaughter of a group of people who were
a Gatling gun,
peaceful people.
Yeah, tell me about it. Can't go up against that. The bullet and dynamite changed the whole game.
Absolutely.
So where's the store in Virginia? Where's the store in Baltimore?
So in Virginia, I'm in Virginia Beach, 3574 Holland Road. You have to have an appointment with me to come here. My store in Baltimore, 2414 St. Paul Street. Also have to have an appointment to go there, but it's right near the corner of 25th and St. Paul. My younger brother, Muhammad, he's the one you saw out there with me on that Saturday. He runs that location for me, but I come up there periodically, for festivals and fashion shows and, networking events to try to get that brand going. I'm going to be up there in Baltimore on the 16th. I'm doing a fashion show with the fashion house Revo. It's going to be down there near Broadway. Not Broadway. What's that spread? Fells Point, off of what's that street? I want to say it's Broadway Street down there. Anyway, it's in Fells Point, November 16th. Revo Fashion House. We're going to do a fashion show. I'm showcasing a small collection there, and then we're going to be doing a bridal show November the 17th over at the Baltimore Convention Center. So you'll see us at those two events, my brother and I.
So if you send me some flyers and information, we'll get it up on bmorenews.com. Did you get a chance to check out our website?
I did. I checked it out. I appreciate the article in reference to You know, me being one of the honorees, I definitely appreciate that. I will be at that event on December the 5th, Thursday.
Yes, sir.
I'll be there for that, and I will send information in regards to my upcoming events as well.
Yeah, we need to. That's why I do black media, because I don't like their version of us.
Yep. Yeah, you know, you have to be able to tell your own story. If you wait for them, you know, it's always going to be their perception of your story, not definitely your representation of your story. And you know, this is kind of going back to something we said earlier, but I think it definitely resonates. You know, the Emmys, the Oscars, all those amazing awards. Hey, if you get one, you're great. But again, that's not necessarily the standard we should be chasing, right? If you feel as though that you are a pillar in whatever community you in, you don't necessarily need an award to justify or, you know, make you relevant. You know, relevance does not come from an award of somebody's opinion. So me personally, I love what I do. If I get an award, I'm always honored. But, you know, an award or not having an award is not going to take away from the level of, you know, knowledge and experience I have within my industry. So.
Every black family has somebody in it that loves Frankie Beverly. Frankie never got one of the white people awards. But you have never seen a musician as revered as Frankie Beverly when he got his wings. Every family got somebody that knows Frankie songs. Running away. We all know Frankie, man. He's like our cousin. But he never got one of them famous white people awards.
Does that make him any less of an artist? You know what I'm saying?
Made him even more. It's not. There's a song comes from Billie Holiday. God bless the child has got his own. When we get back to loving ourselves and learning our history, it don't matter what these other cats doing, especially when we realize we the originators. We started fashion. Man, you go back to the Moors in the Iberian Peninsula. The Moors dominated Spain, Portugal, Europe, beginning in Spain and Portugal for 800 years. Taught them fashion, taught them health, taught them irrigation systems, taught them how to take a bath, cleanliness. The bubonic plague was there. It was the Dark Ages. We never put two and two together. The Dark Ages, we helped pull them out. Illuminated. If you told black people today that C.R. Patterson was developing his own automobile in the United States in Greensfield, Ohio, we swear, oh no, it was Henry Ford. We don't know how great we are. And like you say, we busy looking at our image in somebody else's mirror. Okay, so I got a couple more fashion tips, then I'm gonna let you go.
Okay.
If your waist is 34,
okay,
what size belt?
You go up 2 sizes. So if it's a 34, you buy a 36. So, and then understand, right? It's your waist size, your natural waist, not your hips, right? A lot of guys focus on the hip size or what they can buy in jeans. But if your natural waist is a 34, your belt should be a 36, one size. Men's measurements go in 2s, right? 34, 36, 32. So if you're a 34 waist, you buy a 36 belt.
Okay, then Stephen had a comment here. It's complicated because the black community is racially blended. Suit cut, you get the suits that fit your shape. There isn't really a black shape.
I agree, absolutely. That's across the board, right? There are no, the industry, right? The industry being the suit industry, which a lot of times is made and manufactured in Asia. And
so they for people with no butts.
Yes, but they have this one. Whenever you create a suit, you have to build what's called a base, right? It's the last that they, it's almost like the last of a shoe. It's what all the other suits are made of. That base is a single point, and it's based off, like you say, a European or an Asian body. So if you buy a suit off the rack, it's normally made in Asia and it's using a European or an Asian bodies based, right? And there's nothing you can get away from that, right? So that's why I say in the world of custom, for every single one of my clients, we make a base, right? This is what a base looks like. This is created, right, based off of, you know, somebody's measurements, right? And I then from this, we can make all of their suits based off of this base, right? So again, if you're gonna buy off the rack, there's no way you can get away from that, right? Unless the suit is made in Africa, right? And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of manufacturers in Africa that send to the U.S. So that's why I recommend, like I said, the world of custom. If you want it to truly fit properly, that's the only way you're going to get it.
Okay, now don't laugh at me, but I'm just gonna put it to you. I prefer a wool suit.
Okay.
Now I know with a wool suit
or a wool blend. A wool is a very thick fabric. I think you mean a wool blend.
Okay. The ones that you got to protect your stuff from the moths.
Okay.
But nowadays it's more and more polyester, or maybe it's just I'm just paying more attention.
It's fabric, correct? Polyester blend.
Is that a no-no in your world?
Polyester, yes, I think it's a no-go. It's a very light, cheap fabric. I do not like polyester. So speaking of fabrics, right? So these are the primary fabrics you're going to see in suits. You see a cotton suit, but cotton is a very non-wrinkle resistant fabric. It's very heavy. It's light for the summer, but it wrinkles a lot. You have linen, right? Most of the suits that you're going to wear that are of quality and lay properly are a wool blend suit. I recommend getting a wool blend suit if you're building up your kind of suit wardrobe. And then after you get that wool blend, you get a couple of those, start getting into your tweeds, your full wools, and some of those fabrics.
What, in terms of fashion, what do African designers specialize in from your experience?
So Africans, their patterns and their fabrics are very unique. You're not going to find their patterns and their fabrics anywhere else in the world. So, you know, I got some stuff right here I can actually show you, right? Now, these are fabrics from a Congolese designer that I'm really good with, friends with, Fanny House Collection. So you're not going to find these patterns and these fabrics anywhere else in the world. These are African patterns and fabrics. And even with these, you can make a dress, you can make a head wrap, you can make a blazer. So if you want that very unique colors, fabrics, different prints, that's what Africans are known for. And that's how they kind of distinguish themselves from everyone else in the world, is their fabric colors, patterns, and styles.
Pardon my ignorance. What are they made of?
It's made of the same similar materials that we made out of, you know, the wool blends, light cottons, things like that. Some of them are stretch fabric. I'll tell you, within anywhere across the spectrum, right? Blended materials are the norm now because it's a lot cheaper to make. You have to kind of go to the high-end mills to get pure fabrics, that pure wool. A lot of times you're going to see more blended fabrics, and that's okay. Blend gives it stretch. Blend helps it, you know, when it comes to resisting odor and also stains. So blended fabrics are not a bad thing. But again, it's just the uniqueness of the pattern and the styles where you're really going to differentiate where it came from.
Dapper, is there a website we should have up here for you?
Dapperluke.com. That is me. DAPPERLUQ.com.
How'd you get that name, Dapper? You know we weren't going to let you off here and not ask you.
Okay, so my original name is Lukeman, right? Luqman. A lot of folks find that difficult to say, Lukeman. When I
can say to mess your name all up. What they call you, Luck?
Luke. Yeah, everyone says Luck. Yes, they say Luck because it's not what you normally see. But Lukeman is Arabic. It's in the Holy Quran. And when I was getting into the world of fashion, there was actually a photographer who I followed, Dapper Lou, right? And I really liked his name, and I've always liked the suit in that particular kind of realm, the dapper, you know, the dandy. Folks think I got my name from Dapper Dan. When I first got into fashion, I didn't know who Dapper Dan was. He's an amazing guy. I know him now. I follow him now. But Dapper Luke was my name shortened and following behind another person in the fashion industry, Dapper Lou, who I really liked.
Will you ever, now that you know that there was a Dapper Dan, will you ever modify? Will you ever transform? Will you ever, or is that set in stone? Could we one day find, I don't know, Luke Fantastic?
You know what? Probably not Luke Fantastic, right? Actually, and this is the norm in just across the board. When you're really established, all you need is just your real full name, right? Even though Ralph Lauren is not his real name. Ralph Lauren is a made-up name. Tommy Hilfiger is his real name. But if you're truly in the fashion world, Lukeman Haskett, I don't know, I may have a spin on that. But honestly, like I'm not looking to get in the mainstream, right? I don't necessarily want to have a mainstream fashion brand. I like the niche that I operate in. I'm able to be one-on-one with clients. I want to bring some folks underneath for me to learn how to do what I do. Being in the world of Clothier, it's a different element that I bring to my clients, right? You go into a suit store, you have a person who's a salesman. He looks at you, he kind of gets an idea of what you want. He goes on a rack and he finds something and he says, hey, do you want this? In my community, what we do is we talk to the client, we get understanding of what they look for, and then we create it. It does not exist. I have to make what you're looking at behind me, right? Literally, this client wanted something that was fuchsia, right? So this is a fuchsia with white. This was a wedding suit I did for a client. And, this did not exist prior to me and the client sitting down and having a conversation. So you have to be able to, in your mind, know the different suit styles, suit designs, fabrics, what's available. And with you and that client, you make something out of nothing, literally.
So, what's the material that tux is made of?
It is made out of a wool blend.
I had another question. Okay, dapperluke.com, Baltimore, Virginia. You said Virginia Beach. Do they call it Vibe Beach? I've been watching the Navy SEAL show. They call it Vibe Beach?
No one down here calls it Vibe Beach.
Have you seen the SEAL show, SEAL Team?
I have not.
I think I'm a big fan of SEAL Team.
I'm a documentary buff. I like documentaries. I don't really watch too many television shows. I like stories about real life.
Okay. Anything we had? Oh, I know. When I first met you, one of the things that stuck out in my mind, you said we serve the whole family. So you also do women's clothes, children's clothes as well. You want to speak to that?
Yes, absolutely. So, one of the things that you're seeing a lot of now, same-sex weddings, right? So I do women's tuxedos, women's suits, where, one of the women is going to be wearing a suit or a tuxedo, the other woman is going to be wearing a dress. So a lot of my clients, a woman is not going to be able to go into the average suit store and buy a nice fitted suit for herself that fits properly. So again, that's where my client base comes in. So we make women's tuxedos, suits, blazers, skirts, overcoats, and even for young children. The one thing I'll say about young children, right? If you're going to buy a child a custom suit, let there be an event coming up, whether it be a wedding, a bar mitzvah. Don't go buy a child a custom suit to have, because they're going to outgrow it in a month or two. So I usually, when I speak to my clients and they say, I want to buy my child a custom suit, I normally say, is there an event coming up? Because I would strongly advise against it. If there's not an event, I would just say, go buy them something off the rack. They're going to outgrow. And, because I have a 9-year-old. Every season we buy her new clothes because she outgrew what she wore last season. So, but we have the ability to make custom suits, tuxedos for children, men and women.
Good deal. Is there anything we haven't covered, Dapper? We want to do the Dunbar Porch, right? You ever say I ain't give you a basic bounce pass to alley-oop, but I want to make sure I did my part.
You did your part. I appreciate you having me on board, getting me in front of this, your crowd and your audience. I appreciate that. If there's a way we can share this and I share information. I recycled the interview you did with me on TikTok. You know, I just got on TikTok, so you a little ahead of me. But yeah,
you ain't know we were in a silent competition. I had one of yours up. I was like, my God, your numbers went straight through the roof.
What's that for the TikTok interview?
Yeah, man, your numbers went straight through. I was like, oh my God, well, you know, don't pay me no mind. It's like me when I go swimming out the wild. Let me tell you who I have silent competition with: young white people. Who I don't have silent competition with is old white women, because they can swim, bro. Don't even challenge them old white. Them old white women can swim. But the young ones think I can't swim, and I swim for days.
Okay.
But don't mess with them old white women. They swim the English Channel. Good stuff. Dapper, thank you so much for joining us today, man. Any final thoughts before we get up out of here?
No, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. If anytime you need a guy to come on board, talk fashion with, I am your guy. I can be your go-to guy for fashion, style. You know, you got any of these award shows, anything come up, you want to do a recap, let me know, and let's have a conversation.
I got one question for you. When I see these women on these award shows and they got 2-3 people holding the tail of the dress,
Yes.
What's going on there, bro? Is that too much?
I mean, so no, because you just have to understand where you're at, right? It's funny because I don't know if you remember a couple years ago, the young lady Thames out of Nigeria, she had this kind of, it was like almost like a clam or an oyster, and it was blocking the folks behind her, right? And she was saying that, you know, that was supposed to be her outside dress, and she's supposed to have an inside dress to change into, but they wouldn't let her people inside to change her. So that's how she had to wind up wearing her outside dress inside. In that world of Hollywood, it's all about appearances and being over the top. So that's in that world. You're not going to see a young lady going to just any old event with those types of, you know, big, long dresses where you need folks. But in that environment, in that, you know, event, it's what they do, you know, and you just got to be aware of that.
Okay, well, I'm going to put my little 2 cents on it. These young ladies going to these proms and these senior days, they spending $17,000 on this and that. Put that money on some tuition while you at it.
Absolutely. That's even, you know, to an extent, you know, it's funny when I have conversations with my clients. I say I do a lot of weddings, right? Normally, the bride is focused on the wedding day, right? The groom is like, yo, we about to start a life together. I need to be focused on these next, you know, however many years we're going to be together, not just this one day, you know? So yeah, definitely enjoy it, you know, have an amazing day, bring family together. But ultimately, like you said, let's look long term. Let's not worry about outward appearances of one day, and let's be longevity, you know.
Plus, I'm a little selfish. I ain't spending $5,000 on you on one day, and I don't spend that much on myself.
Absolutely.
Better go pay for that SAT test. Anyway, Dapper Luke, I appreciate you so much. DapperLuke.com. To God be the glory.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Up to date, down tomorrow. Do your day, and everything will follow. Nothing to it but to do it. I got to do it, regardless of how I feel. I am somebody. I am my brother's keeper. Good morning, world.